I take issue with the term self-imposed demands. This has nothing to do with a lack of personal responsibility. It's more that the internal dynamic could not be more complex. To me, PDA is the self, it is the core and the all-seeing eye that looks out at the world. PDA is but one entity which strives for autonomy at all costs, and there exists other internal voices diametrically opposed to PDA in terms of values and nature. A lifetime of traumatic and invalidating experiences plant other voices in one's psyche, one of which may be cold, dictatorial, and merciless, a disembodied sergeant major ordering us around. This voice may give an order for the PDA self to carry out a household chore, and if the self fails to do this, consequences are threatened. So-called self-imposed demands, to me, operate as external agents, imposing themselves on the self as opposed to being generated by the self. These orders come from insecurity, the inner critic or dictator that convinces us that if the given order is not carried out, then due punishment will be administered. The punishment is embedded in the experience, the sensation or the state of "I am a failure." That's all it takes, really. Sometimes though, PDA, or the true self, wins the battle. After all, the injunctions are far from PDA friendly, and in a way, that which occurs on the inside mirrors an external situation we all know too well, a PDA child who is dragged to school by the unenlightened parent. Within, the PDA entity, the self, gets dragged about by the inner critic or dictator. The inner critic or dictator represents the PDA's greatest fear, immortalized and frozen within the psyche. That one's true nature ought not to be trusted, and that aligning with one's need for autonomy is a futile pursuit, or a guaranteed path to failure. There is much debate about whether or not demand avoidance is driven by anxiety. I personally believe the anxiety is generated as a result of the resistance and the inner struggle. Demand avoidance is active. There seldom exists a demand avoidant response to avoiding the demand themselves. Instead of avoiding the demand, we should instead view what's going on as a step towards autonomy. If autonomy drives one towards inactivity, then this is what the PDA is currently capable of doing. Those PDA people with a ferocious inner dictator or critic, though, may sometimes experience their drive towards autonomy becomes thwarted. The shrill and strident voice within declares loudly that autonomy is not the way to go, and that if the PDA is to feel worthy and stave off feelings of failure, the order to meet the demand must be complied with. Alas, sometimes the inner critic or dictator wins. I don't describe this as a self-imposed demand, and find the term unhelpful in general. That which compels me to do a thing is not who I am, but something I have internalized following unpleasant experiences.